Next, we have Arizona District 11 Commander Bobbi Kimelton. She is going to share with us how to use texting to communicate with your membership. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. This is going to be good. I can't walk, chew gum, and do this at the same time. So thank you for giving me this opportunity this morning. I was asked to talk about the use of text messaging as a communication tool for members of your post. And I wanted to start off by bringing to your attention that and sounds like most of you may have experience with this, but communication with your post, typically in most posts, just kind of happens. Sometimes it doesn't happen very well, and sometimes people have it well planned out. But oftentimes there's a lot of disconnect between what's on your website, what you're sending out in emails, what you've got in terms of flyers that you're putting out and messages. And I'm sure we've all been in the situation where we've heard from our members that, well, I never saw that. I never heard that. And so one of the things that we attempted to do at our post that we also thought about long and hard before we did it, because our post is actually a post made up primarily of retirees. And so we gave it a lot of thought before we did it, but we decided we were going to try something different because we needed to work on our communication. And I want to start off by saying that if you are going to do this and use this, this needs to be part of an overall strategy at your post. Text messaging as a communication tool is one aspect of communication. It is not the end-all answer to how you get a hold of your members. I didn't do the transition, so we'll just adjust. You know, text messaging can help create a value-driven message and engage your members through marketing and communication. It's a quick and easy way to get the message out to your members, and you can also personalize it and you can market segment to whatever kind of group you're trying to contact. It's also a great way to get notification out to your members about things that are important to your post, i.e. your dues are past due, please pay them. So you can use it for that kind of thing. So why consider text messaging? One of the things that I hear all the time from people is, well, that's a good idea if you've got younger members, but it won't work in my post. And so I want to challenge you to think not necessarily that it won't work, but how to make it work. Whoops, sorry. This is why text messaging is important. 98% of texts are open read versus only an 18% open rate on emails. Okay? Let me ask you, and you don't have to show me, but in this room right now, raise your hand how many of you have a telephone with you? Okay? How many brought a computer so you can read your email? See the difference? That too. That means that text messages have almost 134 times more open rate and people read them than do email. And I know you all agree with me, most of us get so many emails now that you either go through and say, okay, what are the important ones and read them, or you get to the point you're overwhelmed and you just delete them all and don't read any of them. 90% of consumers, so this is a marketing thing, so I'm talking about your members as consumers, will respond to their text within 30 minutes. So if you have a message out that you're trying to get volunteers, or you're trying to get people to come to an event at your post, you're more likely to get a response right away. And if you have new texts, most people will respond to those within 3 minutes. So that's part of your strategy, is you're not always sending out the same message repeatedly. You're looking at people and saying, okay, how can we create a new message to promote this event, or to ask this question, or to solicit volunteers for an event? And finally, this is the interesting part. 50% of people over the age of 45 check their phones more than 3 times per hour, and 43% age 60 check their phones at least 3 times an hour. The argument that our members are older and they won't read their messages is a fallacy. It's not true anymore. Yes, we do have some members that still have flip phones that may not have text messaging, but a lot of text services will deliver that message just as if it's a phone message. And so it'll come up on your phone and you're able to see it right away. There are 2 types of text messages that you need to be aware of. One is called an SMS message, which is a short message service, and then there's another called an MMS message. And you may have seen those acronyms on services or messages that you have from your phone service. The main difference is this. A short message service is a very brief short message. It has a 98% open rate. So most people, when they get those little, whether you have Messenger or Facebook Messenger or whatever service you use, you'll get a very brief message. And even if people aren't interested in the topic, they'll open it because it's short. The response time, if it is a text message that requires a response, is usually in less than 10 minutes, as opposed to 90 minutes for somebody to respond to an email. You have maximum accessibility. You can reach out to every member of your post using this kind of a format, and if they have a telephone, chances are they'll be able to get this message. Research now shows that 96% of Americans have a cell phone, and 81% of those have smartphones. So again, the old adage that, okay, we have members that have flip phones that won't get messages, most of the technology now allows for it. These are easy, effective ways to reach your members. The downside of it is you're limited to 160 alphanumeric characters. And if you're like me and you can't do anything in brief, this is hard because you have to learn how to be effective in a real short manner. This is also a great way to have a call for action to your members. So you can use the SMS to connect to a link, or to connect to a QR code, or to connect to a portal, to bring them somewhere else so that they will get more information about the topic. Multimedia message services are pretty cool because what they do is you can use any kind of text, photos, audios, videos, information graphs, CIS, and this will improve your engagement by 25% because people learn more and are more interested in things that are not just written words. So if there's something visual with it, people will pay more attention to it. And the cool thing about most of these message services now is you can put videos in them. If you have an event going on and you have videos you want to advertise, you can use that with your text message. They will take up to 500 kilobytes of information, which is about the equivalent of a 30-second audio or visual. I'll say that again. That's almost what a commercial on TV is. So you have lots of time to get your message across. It is the way you get maximum impact, where SMS is the quickest way to reach your members. So you want to think before you use text messaging which kind will get your message across the best. So how can you use texting to reach your members? Here are 10 ideas of things you can do, and I'm going to go through these pretty quickly, but I tried to give you an example of a text message that you could use. It's time to pay your dues. So right now we're going to have a don't forget to submit your 2023 dues before this date. We're going to enter you into a drawing for having your next year's dues paid by the post, and the first 10 members to submit are going to be eligible for this prize. You will notice at the bottom of this there's a website connection. That usually connects to something on your web page, like for instance if you have a Zelle account, or if you have a PayPal account, or if you have a button on your website where they can pay their dues online, it will connect you directly to that. And when you set up the text, they use what they call short keys, which will allow you to enter in sites that connect to other sites. It can connect directly to your bank account if you want it to. This is a great campaign to do to remind your members to pay their dues, and you can do early bird campaigns with this to get people to involved in just a little reminder. And this is a lot less invasive and a lot less irritating than getting 43 notices in the mail that your dues are due. If you have an event, you can send out a reminder. You know, we're having a Memorial Day ceremony at this cemetery, and we're going to be putting flags out. So we're soliciting for volunteers, and we would love for you to come and join us. And you can have a link to a flyer or more information about your event. Thank you messages. I think one of the things we don't do enough is when we have events, it's nice to be able to send out a message quickly that says, hey, thanks, we noticed you were there and we appreciate your involvement. Now this points out something important that I love about texting is you can create different groups. So you can have a text group that goes out to every member in your post, or you can have a text group that only goes to your leadership team. You can have a text group that only goes to volunteers who participated in an event. So you can segment your market that you're trying to communicate with. Group coordination. One of the things that if you're having an event like somebody told me they were scheduling an event for a rock climbing event. If you're going to do something like that and you want people to show up, you have the ability to organize it so that you can get members to come. You can have volunteers show up. And again, you can put the information on there about where to come, when they're supposed to be there. And it's a brief, less than 160 character message to remind someone. Emergency alerts. This is something that I think people don't use often enough, but those of you who live in states with hurricanes and tornadoes and floods, Arizona doesn't have any of that, so we don't use this very often, but this kind of emergency alert will notify people for a variety of reasons. If you want to notify people of a pending emergency, you know, that we're in a floodplain and we're anticipating that our post is going to be flooded and we're just checking on our members, and you can do it as a buddy check style thing, or you can do it if you're having an event where you're filling sandbags or you're filling food for vet packages or whatever, you can use it that way. It's a good way to send up-to-date information, and if the situation changes, you just send out another text. Welcome messages. One of the things that I hear the most from new members is, hey, I joined, they got my $45, and then nobody ever paid any attention to me again. Well, you have the ability to set up, maybe on your website you have a separate page, maybe you have a welcome packet that you send out. At my post, what we do is every new member is automatically assigned a mentor, and they're assigned a committee they're going to participate on. We let them change their committee if they want to, but our philosophy is everybody can do something. And so we make sure from day one when you join our post, you hear from us and we let you know that you're part of our family now. The other really neat thing about it is we try to have events to welcome our new members periodically. So we'll throw a barbecue just for new members and their families, that kind of thing. And I know a lot of posts do a lot of different things like that. You have the ability to do that and notify your new members of what events are going on just for them. Interactive demonstrations. I don't know if any of your posts have podcasts, but this is a great place to send out a link or to advertise your podcast. You can actually put the video on there that gives a brief description of what the podcast is going to be about. If you have a fundraiser going on, say you want to do something here at convention that's a fundraiser, and you need to make contact with your members that are here at convention, but they're spread out all over, and you want to send them a message so you know what's going on, you have the ability to do that with texting. And then things like the convention. If you want to send out the agenda for the convention or to solicit interest from your members about who wants to attend convention, you have the ability to do whatever you want with that as an MMS message. This is one of the really useful tools for this, which is linking to a page of frequently asked questions. We get a lot of people that want to know, okay, how do I fill out an expense report, or what is a CPR, and what am I supposed to do with it? You can take the documents that are important to you, have them on your website, but basically tell people, hey, if you need help filling this out, respond to this text with a yes, and one of us will contact you and answer your questions. Discount coupons. A lot of you have public websites where you make your website open to anyone who wants to go to that website to look. Well, one of the things you might consider doing with your website is having a member-only portal. And the member-only portal has information that's only pertinent to members of your post. Well, one of the things you can do is say, okay, I may have a thing out there where I want to sell post merchandise, and I want to make it available to the members of my post, not necessarily the general public. In your member portal, you can put a discount coupon that says, hey, we're sending this out to you. If you buy something from a ball cap shirts, whatever it is, we'll give you a 25% discount. All you need to do is respond discount at checkout, and we'll give you the 25% off. Member recruitment. This is probably one of the most important things that this will do. You can go out onto mylegion.org and download a list of service members who are in your geographic vicinity, and that can be downloaded as a CVS file or an Excel file. When you download that file, you can then in turn upload it as a text message using one of the services, and send out notifications of member recruitment events. So if you're going to be somewhere and you want people to come to you to be available, that's a great way to do that. Text messaging services. I get a lot of questions from people about how do you know what service to use? When you decide what service you want to use, it's kind of confusing because there's lots of them out there, and okay, which one's the right one for us? So these are things that I would recommend that you use to evaluate which service you choose. The first thing is ease of use. One of the things we've discovered is I may know how to text message, and I may know how to set up a text interactive video, but not everybody does. And what happens is you change officers in your post, and all of a sudden the next guy comes in and it's like, I don't know how to use that. And the whole program and your strategy falls apart. So one, you want to have a service that is kind of a no-brainer. Anybody can use it. Also, what kind of customer service do they have? If I don't know how to do something, is there somebody I can call to get advice on how to fix it? Or is it one of those websites where at the bottom of the page it says contact and I have to send an email and wait for 6 months? Which is funny for a texting service, actually. Some places you want to look and say, do they have any experience working with nonprofits or veteran service organizations? There's a difference between business marketing and the kind of marketing we do, and you want to work with somebody who's got some experience with that. Price, what's your budget? And I'll talk in a minute about the price of this, but you can go very inexpensive and just send a few texts, or you can get very, 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 very expensive and you can send all the texts your heart desires. So one of the things in your strategy, you need to think about, who am I going to send this to? How many people is that? How often would I be sending it? And kind of use that as a gauge for which service will be beneficial to you. What kind of billing methods do they have? My pet peeve, and the thing I hate most, although I know a lot of people do, is automatic billing. That's convenient, but almost 99% of the time, if you decide to change, it's almost impossible to stop it. So before I decide on a service, I want to know what that billing method's going to be. Robust features. Some of these services let you do voting. They'll let you poll your members to get ideas. You can solicit volunteers for events. You can have donations to children and veterans fund. You can do member support. We actually use ours to do follow-ups to our buddy checks. So we do a buddy check, and then we send a text saying, it was so great to talk to you, and we want to keep in touch, just to let them know, here's how you get a hold of us if you need to talk to us. You also want to look at integration with service providers. Do any of you use Constant Contact or MailChimp? Okay, you can actually take your contact list from that and upload it into the text service, and it will automatically send the text to the people on your list. Yep. Yes. Yes, but they'll give it. Right. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So, other integration, if you have a post calendar that you want to integrate your text messages with events, you can do that. You can use it to integrate with your Facebook page or your other social media sites that you have. And you can also integrate it if you use any kind of billing system for your payments, for your dues, or for other things, you can integrate with that. So how do you do it? Okay, first of all, you have to determine which service do you want to use, and then you register on their website and set up your account. You want to determine a couple of things. If you're only going to use a few text messages, you may want to think about, do I need a separate telephone number that's going to be the response number for the text messages so they're not coming to your personal phone all the time? Or do you need multiple numbers so that you have them for different marketing groups that you have? So you need to figure that out. You want to know how many users you're going to have on your plan. Are you going to be the only person sending out and receiving texts, or do you have a team of people at your post who are going to be involved? They'll all need access, so you need to figure that out. You need to be able to upload your list of contacts as opposed to sitting there and hand entering everybody you want to send a message to. So you have to think, okay, how do we maintain our roster of members? You need to be able to compose the message. Big challenge for me is being brief. So how do I say what I want to say without taking too long to say it? And then finally you click send and the message goes out. And I'll address that too, because that's part of the legal aspects of this. Here we go, legal stuff. Okay, first of all, you need to check out your state requirements on texting because they're all different. So I know California has some fairly strict standards about sending out text messages and how you can do it. And this is the most important thing I tell you all day long. You have to manage your opt-in and opt-out language. So you can do that in a variety of ways. When you bring a new member into your post, you can have them opt in and agree that as a member of the post, that's how you're going to communicate with them. Or you can have them opt in when you send out a particular message, which means if they don't want to opt in, they can opt out, which means they're telling you, I don't want to get text messages from you, and you need to honor that. If somebody tells you, I don't want to be communicated with that way, don't do it. Verbal or written consent to collect phone numbers and agree to text. The reason I say you may want to do it when you first bring a new member on board is because one of the first things we do is collect their email and their phone number. So that's a perfect opportunity to say, hey, do you mind? This is how we communicate. Would you mind if we use your phone number to send you text? And to get them to sign an agreement saying they're okay with that. Again, if they say no, don't do it. You need to know and understand the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, which I believe is what you were referring to.
It's a little bit different. The CAN spam has to do with emails and text, and it requires a double opt-in.
To do that. So you have to do it at the beginning and also.
Yeah, and they have to have a way to opt out.
To do it. We put an opt-in or opt-out on every message we send so that if somebody doesn't want to receive them. Now, I will tell you this, part of that is knowing ahead of time, here's what we're going to text you about, here's when we're going to text you, and here's how often we're going to text you. So that if somebody says, that's too much, I don't want to hear that, then they can say, don't communicate with me that way. We found most people, however, don't mind because we are very strategic about when we send messages and what we send them, so they're not getting 50 texts from us all the time. Brad?
What would you recommend a good frequency for sending this information without overwhelming?
It depends on what you're communicating. If it's an event, we send out 3 messages. If it's dues, we send out 1 message a month, and then the closer we get to the deadline, we may increase that to every other week. The last week, it may be once a day. We try, that doesn't happen very often, but there again, that's the other thing. If someone tells you, I don't mind getting your text, but I don't want to hear from you that often. We try not to bombard people, because it'll become, if you do, it becomes like email, where nobody's going to pay any attention to it. So you have to be really, really careful about it. And a lot of people, you'll find that the people who like that means of communication will opt in because they like having text. So it usually is not a difficult thing to do it. Yes, sir.
The challenge we have in Arkansas, and I'll use an example, because I text a lot, but leisure riders, okay? I text all the leisure riders on the director for the state, and you send out a message, and all of a sudden, oh, okay. You can't hear me? Okay. The challenge we end up with in that particular situation is I'll send out a text to individuals associated with Legion Riders. And all of a sudden it becomes a string of text messages, okay? People just start responding to it, and they don't mind the text message, but they don't want 35 comments after that. Is there a way to prevent that or preclude that?
There actually is, depending on what service you use, and that's the thing that I would do, is look at the service. You can actually set this up so it's one-way texting. All it is we're sending you an announcement or a notice. You don't even need to respond to us, and you're not going to hear anything else other than this. So that is done through your service provider. Yes, sir.
In that same situation, though, can you, I'm sorry, in that same situation, can you then allow individual replies as opposed to reply all? Because that's one of the problems that we've run into. I can't find out a way to allow a reply, doesn't allow a reply all. And if I send out, my post has 800 members. If we were to send a text to 500, and we have those in our other states, it's the complication we run into. So we're mostly in email as opposed to texting.
That's a great question, and there really is a solution for that, and that is to create 2 text groups. You create the text group, you just want to send the message and you want no replies. You send the identical message to a text group where it's okay for people to respond. So you can do it that way. The thing is, and I think you've heard it, is this is not something that if you're going to be effective, you just let it happen. You have to think about what you want to communicate, how you want to communicate it, and set your strategy up in order to do that. Here are some services that you might consider if you're looking at having text messaging and you currently do not, or you don't like who you have it with. Easy Texting is a service, and I'm not affiliated with any of these, I'm just based on the research we've done. Easy Texting is a service that has a lot of advanced features that let you do a lot of things like polling and voting and all that kind of stuff, and it's reasonably priced. So it's a version that's easy to use, it's easy to teach people to use, so I would recommend that. Simple Texting is a service that if you want to do a lot of customization, you can utilize that service. That works really well. Podium, if you only want your texting for the purpose of managing your members and recruiting members, and you're not interested in the other features that I talked about, Podium is a good member management service to use. Thrive is also kind of overall has all of the best features, but it's also more expensive, so that's an option. There are some other ones up there: Pro Texting, Textmark, Slick Text. Twilio is a service that is solely for nonprofits, and so they have a lot of features that are specific to what a veteran service organization would want or need. TextMagic, Sales Message, those are all providers that I would recommend you take a look at and figure out what's going to work best for your post. Costs. It depends, because depending on how many messages you want to send out, for instance, if you're sending out messages to 800 members 3 times a week, you're not going to get by with a $24 a month plan. So you have to really think about the cost. $24 a month for 1,200 text messages with one customer keyword, which is like you can only send one type of message out, is about $24. You can go up to $2,800 a month, and that'd be for 240,000 text messages. And there's everything in between. So you really need to do your research in terms of how are you going to use it and what are you going to do with it. Anyone have any questions? Yes, ma'am. I can't hear. That way I won't answer you.
Have you looked at, have you any experience with community.com?
I do not. I have not heard of that.
Yeah, that's another one that a lot of the online like influencers are using now instead of doing email. But I just wondered if you had any experience with that.
I did not, but I'll look. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. Excellent presentation, I must say.
Thank
One of the best I have seen it. Yeah, it is, I'm telling you. So one thing is a little bit difficulty is if you have one cell phone dedicated to a post or a department to receive or send out the messages, how you delegate that to the adjutant, to the commander, because that's a difficult thing.
That's kind of tough to answer simply because it depends on the officers of your post and how they feel about text messaging. A lot of times if you use one number that's a post number that all the messages are going to come into, you can figure out a way based on the keyword to forward those messages to the appropriate committee chair or the appropriate officer in your post, and it will then blindly send it to their personal cell phone as opposed to the post phone. So you can utilize it that way. That's a little more complicated to set up, but you can do it.
Just a suggestion, one of the things that we do, we have a post email Gmail account, American Legion 557@gmail.com. We have a Google Voice number that's associated with that you can send text messages to.
Absolutely, and since you brought that up, there's also the ability, if you want like people sending in, let's say CPR report information, you can have it uploaded to Google Docs so that you have it all in one location so you can track it. There's lots of integrations like that you can use.
My question is I have a phone, but I can only send 10 people a text message at a time. Is there a way so I can make a whole bunch of them? Because if you know how to do it, I don't.
Yeah, you have to use one of the services that I referenced as opposed to your phone's cell phone. It's a commercial service as opposed to a personal service. If you're not sending more than 10 messages, you could use one of the cheaper plans, and about for $24 a month, it's like a you can set up your group, you can send up your text messages that you're going to do, and you can send the same message or different messages depending on who you identify.
Yes, so when people are talking text message, I automatically default to a cell phone. But is there a computer app that you can download to enter data on your computer and then click the button and it would automatically send out to your customer's cell phone?
Yes, you can actually, like easy texting, one of the things you can do with their services, one of the features they have is you don't have to do your messages on the phone. You can do them on a computer and it'll upload to the service and then send it out as a text. Any other questions?
Which service do you use?
We use easy texting. And that's actually not the service we started with. We got to a point where we were fairly good at it, and so the one we were using didn't have enough features on it, so we went to Easy Text. And I like it because I have a lot of people in my post who are not used to using text messages, and it's easy to teach and it's easy to show people how to opt in, out, opt out. So it works pretty well and it's affordable.
Yes, in regard to easy texting, uh, is allocated to a phone number, or is it can be allocated to an email account? Either way, I don't know. Thank you.
Typically, texting is allocated to a phone number, but your phone number can be attached to an email account. So you can get your texts come in almost like you're reading a list of messages on an email. So you can get it that way. The other thing is you want to figure out when you're doing your strategy, do I need one phone number or do I need multiple phone numbers depending on what programs I'm going to use it for? So that may vary also. Well, I think my time is up, so thank you very much for the opportunity, and I appreciate your patience and attention.